Welcome to Belize.
When is the last time 5 of us were in the same place at the same time?
To old friends.
The house, retirement, Belize. You think it's legit? Don't you?
Philo, there's something on the bottom of your pool.
It's schoolyard rules around here. Somebody pushes, you push back.
Are you saying we stole this boat?
You just implicated us in piracy!
The boat belongs to a psychopath. He's very dangerous.
Okay, I'm out of here.
Let's go. Let's just
If
go.
we run, they will track us down.
You made your choices. I made mine.
Thought it was a nightmare.
What's going on down here?
Oh, it's so true.
Have you done something wrong?
Don't go walking slow, 'cause the devil's on the loose.
A cat just walked in.
We're not safe here.
Get back in the car! Get back in the car!
Hey, take that off. We're a team. We're best buds.
No, we're not. We don't even like each other.
Tell me the truth and I will send you home. They are your friends, but they are not your family.
We heard everything you were saying to her.
I don't have to have loyalty to any of you.
We're not gonna make it out of this, are we? You didn't enjoy your stay?
Wonderful. Really fun. Wonderful time.
Run through the jungle.
That was so nice. Billy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
The one and only Billy Zane, ladies and gentlemen. And I have to ask you right off the bat, I feel like many people knew who Billy Zane was before Zoolander, but do you feel like because of that cameo and because of the mentioning of your name, you became kind of the one and only Billy Zane after that? Like it became almost iconic to hear your name?
It affirmed my place in the universe. It's strange to get more love for playing yourself for 5 minutes than 30 years of character work, but, it's like, is that all it took? I would have... Now talk to me about these. Where's the optimum distance?
I go
Like here, or I'm watching people get up all on this, like...
I go right around here.
Right about here?
Depending on what I'm saying, but like right here.
It's kind of like a razor. I'm just want to clean it up.
Get
Right?
casual with it,
Fair enough.
Light-wristed with it.
Just over here, like I'm not even holding it at all.
That looks pretty cool.
Or I'm vaping or something.
That's the Zane way.
Okay.
So let's talk about Mad Dogs first off. This is
Sure.
a really great
Whoa.
show on Amazon and a fantastic pilot.
Thank
Can
you.
you talk about how you got involved?
I read this phenomenal script, an adaptation of a very successful English show by the same name. They made the project there, and it's I don't know. I say it's like Lord of the Flies meets The Hangover, if you can imagine. Set in the tropics, men behaving badly and getting their comeuppance. It rides a wonderful razor's edge line of black comedy and absolute carnage and mayhem and humor and drama, beautifully acted by a wonderful cast. Michael Imperioli, Ben Chaplin, Romney Falco,
Steve Zahn.
and Steve Zahn, and it's on Amazon, and I'm, was really blown away to see how they executed, the platform executed on this drama. It was really phenomenal. They, spent well and used social and their interactive platform as well as you.
Incredibly well. I mean, the pilot itself. I remember when I saw it, I was like, wow, Amazon really went out for this pilot. It's beautiful looking. There's aerial shots. The cast is incredible. It's a
Cast
really...
is and it's Malco, not Falco. He's not like a German 80s pop singer named Falco. It's Romany Malco, forgive me, who throws down a phenomenal performance in this show.
What was it like working with those guys?
It was wonderful. It was it was a difficult shoot, to say the least. For some more than others, the tropics. It was in a lovely location. I love shooting in Puerto Rico. We were on the other far side of the island in Rincon, recreating what it was to be Belize, and And our drama's tough as it is. It's an arduous task, and this is a very physical show. It was very taxing, but fun, and as a result, it bonds you with these lovely folks.
What makes it arduous? Is it the fact that you have
Weather,
to do it very
conditions.
quickly?
Any film is a military exercise at best, more like a naval exercise. It has the same hierarchy, and daylight is your enemy, and you're racing for it and trying to grab quality in a usually very constrained construct and time frame. And you have weather elements and possible hurricanes, and you're either dragging what is to appear like a dead body for and burying that, or jumping off of boats, and I think it's listen, you can't really complain about filmmaking. It's a blessing to have this job and maintain a long and pleasant career in it. But you lose a pound of flesh on every movie. There's no question. It's like it's just what it is.
And did you lose a pound of flesh on Zoolander 2 coming out this weekend?
Not enough, apparently. No, I didn't.
How similar to your previous cameo in the first one is yours in this one? Is it a cameo or is it a bigger part this time?
Ben was very generous to have expanded and played upon the interest that came off of the first by making his relationship with Billy Zane just be a little more intrinsic to the plot. I'm there as still got his back, giving him some little motivation and
I have to ask, where did that
mentor-like status.
Where did that initially come from? Because I remember when I first saw Zoolander, it felt like the most random choice for a cameo at that moment. Like, no one saw that cameo coming. Whereas, like, David Bowie, it's kind of like, oh, okay, you got David Bowie for this fashion walk-off scene. How did this come about with Ben Stiller, that suddenly it became Billy Zane is his best friend and stick a cork in it, Zane, and all those lines?
Majority of that was, I think, improvised, including Owen's, listen to your friend Billy Zane, he's a cool, like, that craziness just went down with three knuckleheads playing, one afternoon, and it was just the most absurd thing to say, and it was said, and it just was affirmed forever. It was cast in stone, and I'm so grateful. Yeah.
I watched the bloopers from that original scene, and you're the only one that's keeping it together. Ben and Owen can't handle it, and you're the only one who's just you've got it down.
It required a certain gravitas. I mean, the more serious I was, the funnier it was, and a walk-off was a very serious thing. A walk-off was, it's critical. It's probably no greater challenge.
Now, I know that Zoolander 2 had been in the works for quite a few years. I think Ben had been developing Zoolander 2 for a number of years before actually getting the green light to make it. Were you aware from the beginning of the development that you may come back and be a big part? Did he let you know?
We were told that there was, there were, certainly rumblings, but yeah, we knew it was coming down the pike, and it was just a question of, when that was going to happen. But I was very excited to hear upon the announcement that it was going down, that I was, definitely showing up. So I was thrilled. I had no idea it was going to be as, extensive, shall we say.
Did Ben Stiller ever sort of let on to you where he came up with the idea that Billy Zane had Derek Zoolander's back?
You're looking at, 2000, 2001. I was living in Manhattan, as was he. I think he was researching the fashion world at that time and was hanging out with the Hugo Boss folks and was at the runway shows. I happened to populate a couple of those during Fashion Week, and we kept running into each other. And it seemed like an obvious choice for him to call, people who were around fashion and appreciated design. And I'm a clothes horse. I love it.
Do you still populate Fashion Week? Are you going to be at Fashion Week? Is it this week or next week? Excuse me. Or was it last week?
I should answer this question. I think it's one of those weeks.
Yeah. Were you at Fashion Week, or are you going to be going to Fashion Week?
No, I was not. I've been raising two little daughters in Pasadena, so my Fashion Week is getting them dressed in other than Elsa princess dresses.
But outside of Fashion Week, I mean, an art form that you are a part of, you are showing. You're an abstract artist, correct? And
Correct.
You've had work shown in Art Basel. You had it showed at the Leica Gallery in L.A., right? And are you showing in New York right now too?
No, I'm showing it. I have a show on right now in L.A. at Leica. It's I've been painting since I guess formally since '97. While we were filming Titanic, I had I turned my garage into a studio, and you had a lot of downtime. We were there for 7 months.
You only had time on Titanic.
Nothing but time, and it needed to be used in a healthy way, trust me. And I laid, large canvas out and started applying house paint and recycled items. I was always a big fan of ABEX, of abstract expressionism, kind of mid-century offerings in palette and style, and the language of applying the paint was a bit like dance and kind of funky. I remember seeing movies of Jackson Pollock and how he moved across a canvas, and then I remember seeing Jim Morrison play at the Hollywood Bowl on the Alive She Cried tour, and how the way he moved was almost similar. So it appealed to the physicality, and when you apply that to leaving like a trail, behind that movement with your paint or your pour or your roller, the kinetic quality of that remains, and it can be appreciated after. I just thought that was really fascinating. So I started, kind of before the, let's say, green art movement, long before, I started just using what I would find, like paint that would have normally found its way into a tip or a dump site. I would use that. I like the fact that I would never bring materials with me, and I would know that in every location of the world there'd be a marine supply, a hardware store, or a garden center. So all of my supplies tended to be hardware based and kind of industrial and a little brutish, but the color palette and the composition adhered to a cult of beauty. So you had this kind of soft sensibility, but with this very kind of brutish material and very masculine, whatever, kind of, hand. It was kind of cool. People responded to it. The art world seemed to, deem it legitimate in the belly of the beast in the middle of the London art, critics' world.
Just after you, right after you just started, like you had just started doing it.
No, I let it sit dormant. I was painting for myself, and it was only in 2010 that I think my sister had brought a gallerist to the house where I had lots of pieces while I was out of the country, and was like, look,
How did you feel about that, having your stuff shown to a gallerist without you knowing?
I was charmed and flattered and grateful my sister did it. It was kind of cool. I didn't really think about, it wasn't on my mind to do it as a commercial venture, and not that it really was commerce, but like to go out with it. But I like the kind of immediacy, strangely, even though there was a bit of a delay, I like the immediacy of the decision to go, yeah, sure, we got a show. And then I like a deadline too. There's something nice about the improvisation of that style of painting and the pressure, which reminds me of how you make a movie. So and as a result, painting on set was very interesting because it was singular expression to kind of counteract art by committee,
Especially on something like Titanic, I feel like where James Cameron is known as a very exacting, very specific kind of director. So it must have been nice, I guess, to sort of have something personal for yourself, like you said. That's all from.
He was awesome. He was a very funny man. No one knows how funny he was. We really bonded on puns. Yes, he's exacting. He knows everyone's job technically, and expects excellence, and has no time for anything less than that. And I appreciate that and get it, And if you're there to contribute and make the movie as good as you can, he'll love you for it. But he doesn't want to handhold you or coddle you. He wants professional behavior, and everyone up to the game. But he was the first in the water and the last out. So respect to that guy for working harder than anybody, and for being such a taskmaster. It was his hand that drew that sketch of Rose. He drew that. So for such a tough guy. He's got a light touch, you know.
Do you think that this is so silly? Do you think that Rose had room for Jack on the piece of wood at the end of the movie? There's been a lot of controversy about this lately, Billy Zane, and I want to bring this controversy to you to let the AOL audience know and the audience viewing out there if Billy Zane thinks that Rose could have fit Jack on the piece of wood at the end of the movie.
Cal does. I think there might have been some guilt after the fact that she really did feel for Cal and didn't let him on. No. Then the movie would have been, 5.5 hours, not.
It would have been the rest of their romance after they got to shore, just the rest of their lives together.
It's like, now what do we do? Wouldn't it be great? I always thought it'd be interesting to you start a movie like a Bond film at the very end, and the hero is killed and the girl is left alone, or the villain survives. Like, you start a movie as if we expect it would end normally, and then all the usual conventions don't occur, and then you just kind of go home with someone. You just follow someone home until well, that happened. And the rest of their life is really boring, and it just kind of like
a Bond movie that takes place sort of in between the missions, where he has to kind of clean up the mess that he's left behind.
Yeah, really, exactly. It'd be kind of fascinating.
I think you should make that movie.
Deconstructionist? Sure, I'm on it. Note to self.
You were also you were in this movie called The Phantom, which is before the superhero craze. Do you think that movie would have done better if it had come out now or in the last 5 years?
Hard to say. We definitely kind of beat the curve, but I don't know if it would have been that movie. That film was written by Jeffrey Boehm, who had written Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and as a result, you have a similar sense of joy and spirit of adventure, as Treat Williams quotes as the bad guy in the movie. It is as true to the spirit of the comic that Lee Falk created than anything I could imagine. And I think had it come out in the middle of a very tech-heavy and slightly amoral, whatever, anti-hero vibe, but he was not a Dark Knight. This guy was a happy hero. He was, what's not to love? You got animal friends, and you got a cave and a treasure room, and he's like, this rocks. She's like, your dog's a wolf. He's like, I know, isn't that awesome? So he's like Tarzan, he's like a jungle lord in purple. Why purple, I have no idea, but it looks good against green.
I have another question about a past project of yours, because it is again coming back in the same way that Zoolander has a sequel. We have Twin Peaks coming, and you had a great character for a brief run on Twin Peaks. You actually were the character that deflowered Audrey. Will your character be coming back in the Twin Peaks?
God, I hope so. Sorry. No,
you have no word.
Based upon that information alone, I was just like, yeah, I'll be there.
The audience did not respond well to deflowered. I'm sorry. I guess it is a gross term. Excuse me for not finding a better one.
Deflowering, a gross term. Yeah. What is possible? Anyway, you give me a flowerier version of that expression.
Virginity?
Leave it to David Lynch to cast it. Then I was known for, I guess, Dead Calm, which was like I was the crazy guy on boats. I was the go-to guy. Just add water. Zane will go there, and
Is that how you got Titanic? Was Cameron saw you Dead Calm?
Huh?
Cameron saw Dead Calm and was like,
I'm on a boat in this thing. It's just like a running joke. I can't charter a boat to save my life. I go to try, no, you kidding? Get out of here. No way. Giving you the keys to that bad boy. Not gonna happen.
You do get on the boat. Billy Zane's out on that boat.
Don't get on
I don't
the boat.
know what we're gonna do.
Where were we? How did we get there?
Twin Peaks?
We went to see Twin Peaks, and we go to yachting. Yeah, Twin Peaks. Oh, leave it to Lynch to completely cast against type and cast probably the most sane, wholesome, Gary Cooper-like character with, the nut job. It's like, it was fantastic. So I got to, play this kind of Capra-esque Mr. Deeds, squeaky guy singing cowboy songs and making out on the tarmac with Cheryl and Fenn. Didn't suck. It was great.
And any word of a return?
No word. I'm sorry to say. Hopefully it'll run long enough where I'll be happy to, go back there. But when Ben Stiller directs an episode, I'll probably turn up as myself.
You probably won't get to play the original character. You have to play Billy Zane in Twin Peaks somehow.
I could play myself having played the character in
Yes.
Twin Peaks and totally break the fourth wall along with the log lady.
That sounds like a nice Lynch-Stiller kind of combination there.
That's good. I like it.
I think we have some time for questions from the audience. Does anyone in the audience have questions for Mr. Zane?
Hi, Billy.
Please, call me Mr. Zane.
Mr. Zane, I'm about to ask you easily the most dorkiest question I think you may have ever been asked. You did a voice in this game called Kingdom Hearts like 10 plus years ago.
Quite right.
And you were like the main antagonist and like...
What gave you that impression?
Oh my God. So, but like from like subsequent series, like subsequent games, you were completely voiced by like a different guy. But I never quite bought that character's like emotion as much as I did when you played it. Like there's some moments in the game where lines you said are completely redubbed by this new guy and it just doesn't hit quite right. Did you like know what you were like doing this role as? Was it a big deal to you? Was it like, Disney wants me to do a voice, I'm gonna do a voice? Were you into it?
I know it was a huge title. I was honored to do it, and the amount of love I get for doing the voicing in Kingdom was like crazy. So the fan space and the gamers and the fanboys and girls, man, I'm honored and would happy to return. Are you telling me they revoiced me in that game? I'm gonna have a word. Thank you, though.
Thank you for alerting him to his pending lawsuit coming. Next question.
So Amazon is starting to have a really large presence in terms of original TV series like Transparent and now Mad Dogs. So what were your emotions when you found out that you were going to be part of Amazon's new like hit series?
It felt like a hit before we made it. When I found out, obviously there was no way of affirming that, but it felt like the future. It felt like exactly where you wanted to be. And it lived up to it. I think you're watching, incredible platforms like, Netflix making very bullish acquisitions at Sundance, resetting the bar on, they're spending on talent, they're spending on quality, and they're getting it right. And it's really a refreshing, counterintuitive experience to, the idea of crushing the bottom line and just making do. That tends to permeate, 95% of the movie making out there, not out of desire, but just out of necessity. There's just someone on your throat, And here you got, cat with the purse strings just kind of going, no, we're going to win the day on quality because quality will always work. And it takes, a giant to do it, and it's proving to really be a successful model. So what I'm excited by is what's going to come out of it now, and I think it's going to inspire a lot of even better writing, great actors, and I look forward to, developing material with them. You build a relationship, and they seem really keen and to engage. It's fun, yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the amount that Amazon and Netflix, as you said, spent on stuff at Sundance was unbelievable, and it was a really positive, or gave me a very optimistic outlook in terms of the future of movies. You had some really, really phenomenal films that normally wouldn't sell or would sell for a lot less than what they sell, but you had, like you said, Amazon and Netflix stepping up and saying, let's find that niche, or let's change the way we're looking at this. It doesn't have to be Little Miss Sunshine. It could be a really beautiful, well-acted drama, which is...
It changed the economics of the industry completely away from, outdated metrics that, played to the obvious assumptions that would always, fail at some point, You can never guarantee, but if something speaks to you and connects, they have the space with which to test it, early on before you commit to 10 episodes, which is kind of interesting.
But the pilot of this show is unbelievable. Like,
cracking.
It's one of those pilots where when you finish it, if you watch a lot of TV, a lot of pilots, you go, shit, that was it. That was, you guys figured out a pilot, you figured out the system to write a really great pilot, you know, because it has to set everything up without feeling expository. It's really smart, really, really well-written stuff.
Well, Sean and Chris, our writers, were just came from such incredible backgrounds, you know. The Shield, and you know, Chris with Sean and Chris's original version of this was highly successful, and the focus was upon the characters and the kind of fallibility of the 40-year-old male, the significance and insignificance as they're facing kind of the end of youth and the beginning of something, or the end of relevance in their minds, and when thrust together in this kind of reunion from college, where they're all feigning higher levels of success than are really, you know, worthy or true, for that matter. A lot of facade seems to peel away, but you know, while you anchor to a very tangible and real conversation, you have craziness going on around you, the most insane, harrowing, and absurd stuff that they react to with terror and gallows humor, and you know, how life would behave to some degree. So it seems to have really struck a chord with audiences, which is awesome.
Yeah. I think we have time for 2 more questions. Next question.
Hi. You've been in so many projects, and so many of them have become these big, devoted cult following movies, from Titanic to Back to the Future, to even the smaller ones that are like The Phantom and things like that. And I live with a guy who's a huge Billy Zane fan. You know, my roommate Phil is just a huge Zane Meister. So, what's
Zane
it like?
Meister? Is that a thing?
Sure. Well, his last name's Meister. So,
Like Zane Meister. Where's Phil?
Phil's at home right now.
Was he listening? Phil?
I hope he's watching. Yeah.
This is Zane Meister. What are you doing? Why are you here?
What's it like knowing you've got an army of Zane heads around the world?
Zane Meister,
I believe they're called Zaniacs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But what's it like knowing you have this devoted following of so many people that are so into so many of your projects?
We're not a gang. We're a club. We mean well. We're a much coddled constituency. Colonel Bernie Sanders, I think, is targeting our... It's awesome. What can you say? It's, you know, dig and be dug, you know. Love is cyclical. I try to give as much as I can, even though I have to do it from, you know, within psychopaths on boats. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but like, you project as much of that as possible, infuse as much humor in the most absurd, and I think that resonates with the cadre of cool cats.
What do you think?
Thank you, though.
What do you think has led to you playing a number of psychopaths on boats or off boats?
What?
What do you think has led to you playing a number of psychopaths on boats or off boats?
My listening skills, clearly. What makes me do that?
Like, what about your personality, or what do you think people see in you that are like, he'd be great to play the killer in Demon Knight?
Honestly, I think it's the humor, because the plot speaks for it, like the microphone. The plot speaks for itself, and you know, you have the actions, you have the setting, your wardrobe. You know, all these are communicating and driving the agenda, which is usually, in this case of a drama, fairly dark and oftentimes predictable. And when colored with, I mean, crazy doesn't know they're crazy.
Yeah.
You don't play crazy. You play someone who thinks they're completely sane in a crazy situation. That becomes scary. That is, I mean, I hate to break it down with so simplistic, but it's absolutely true. It's just, you know, they don't know they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They're just gonna do their, you know, they're going about their business. And the situation is nutso, and it becomes absurd and absolutely entertaining and scary and funny and kind of charming and at times, dare I say, attractive, which makes you challenge yourself and like, why do I find that guy hot? He's absolutely crazy, or why, you know, it's like, I've heard that. Haven't I heard that? Come on, I've heard that.
Tell him he's hot.
Honest.
I think we have time for one more question from the audience. Right here.
Hi, Mr. Zane. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, sir? What's your name?
My name is Michael Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. Good day.
It's an honor to meet you. I would like to say you've been a character actor for 25, 30 years, very successfully. There's a rumor that you moved to LA after you finished in Switzerland or the American school. You were out in LA less than 3 weeks when you booked Back to the Future. I thought that was pretty cool. And the sheer fact that how do you approach characters and character development for the first time as an up-and-coming actor? I would love to know how you approach breaking down a brand new character and inventing them for the big screen.
Thank you. That's a really awesome question. I'm happy to impart. I'm going to make a couple adjustments to your bio timeline. I came out of Chicago. I did go to Switzerland for 1 year at the American school. Phenomenal school, great experience in Lugano. I highly recommend it if you can get over there and do it. You're studying the Renaissance, studying the David. You get in a van, you drive there, and you go, the David. It's pretty neat. It's like, the VR education, and, it's like you're right there, but RR, whatever that means. And I did arrive. I intended to take a year off of film school. I was going to go to film school, wanted to be behind camera. Had acted in school, had a whole family full of actors. It was in the DNA, came naturally, but I really wanted to make movies. But at that time, in the mid-'80s, it was, independent film wasn't cracking. We didn't have this little thing called the internet. And, a handful of studios made some big films. But fortunately, there was the teen movement going on. And an 18-year-old actor was in demand. So I decided to just focus solely on that to get in and learn how these things were made near the closest radius, as opposed to working in the mailroom or humping cable for the electric department. And it was 2 weeks, not 3 weeks, just to make a correction. I'm just saying, it was kind of cool like that. No, it was an audition. Gotta love auditions. I had an audition. I had a great agent. I went in. I read for this mad thing that was all very top secret, and we all read for Biff. Not for the other roles, because there were no lines for the other roles other than shit and something else. I think we
get him, Biff.
Get him and arg, I know, whatever. But they already cast Tom Wilson, and then whoever they liked, they hired. So I was just blessed to have worked on that and got that job and spend months learning from the best at Universal. But how do you get a job? Is your question? How do you audition, and what is the process? First thing you got to remember when you're walking in is that rejection is divine protection. Whatever that means to you. You don't get what you're not supposed to, so don't waste a minute lamenting a lost opportunity, because there are none. Honestly, when you get and do what it is you're supposed to do, it resonates, you know why you're there, and it usually has nothing to do with the film. Filmmaking is about people, and inevitably you meet incredible people, and that hopefully is captured along the way by these cameras, and but you energetically, it's something far deeper. And another reason to not get too bummed out when you don't get that job and someone else does, I've always said, it's like you don't want to get in the way of that weird destiny, because someone's been hired to go do it, and honestly, as it is about people, they're going to end up marrying the craft service girl, and that kid's going to cure cancer, so get out of the way. You know what I mean? Just let that thing flow. You know what I mean? So it also gives you some moxie to walk into the next audition. So if you get it, if you don't get it, you're like, next, move on. You build this stamina for it. And in the practical breakdown of material, don't fall in love with punctuation and the idea of words. The I love yous, the I hate yous, exclamation points and underlines, italics. These were good ideas to get the script initially read and understood by producers fundamentally, but not really to inform actors on a particular rhythm to follow. And too often actors adhere right to what is read. They're kind of looking for someone to interpret that ever so slightly. Find different music that is all your own. Put the comma somewhere else. Underplay something that is overplayed. Play opposite, mess with it. Deliver on the point and objective of the scene, but go jazz, go a little improv on it, and you'll be amazed at, like, it'll stand out and show confidence, along with the fact that you're clearly not rattled from that previous piece of advice.
Well, Billy, that's an incredible piece of advice. Thank you so much for being here. Mad Dogs is on Amazon right now, right? And Zoolander is this Friday?
Mad Dogs is on Amazon.com right now. Thank you. Zoolander is on. We premiere tomorrow night. I think we're going live and hot. What is it? Friday?
Yeah.
Friday. We're kicking it. Go see it. It's absolutely hysterical. I'm about to launch BillyZane.com tomorrow from the red carpet. Check that out. And my YouTube channel is about to go live as well. So you can get to it through BillyZane.com. Enjoy. Or follow me on @BillyZane, as it were.
Billy, thank you so much for being here, man. A
great
pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot.